Tonight, you are about to spend the night inside a Viking Longhouse during a blizzard that blankets the Scandinavian landscape in snow. Outside, the wind moves across frozen hills and snow-covered fields. Everything beyond the walls is cold, silent, and white. But inside, everything feels slower. The Longhouse stretches for nearly 100 feet from end to end. Its walls are built from thick wooden planks carefully fitted together. Above you, a roof covered with layers of turf and frozen grass helps keep precious warmth trapped inside. At the center of the building, a long fire burns steadily. The flames are not large. They move gently, producing a constant warmth that lasts throughout the night. Smoke rises slowly toward an opening in the roof and disappears into the darkness of the storm above. Around you are simple wooden benches. Some are covered with sheepskins. Others hold thick wool blankets prepared for sleeping. The scent of wood smoke drifts quietly through the room. It mixes with the smell of aged timber that has sheltered many winters before this one. The loudest sound is the wind outside, distant, softened by the thick walls. Sometimes it grows stronger for a few moments. Then it fades again. The Longhouse almost seems to breathe along with the storm. And while winter rules the world beyond these walls, you rest in warmth, shelter, and quiet comfort inside this ancient Viking home. The entrance to the Longhouse is protected by a small wooden structure designed to block part of the wind. Even so, tiny particles of snow occasionally find their way through narrow gaps and drift inside. The door is heavy, built from thick wooden boards reinforced with horizontal beams. It measures a little over 3 feet wide. Its purpose is not to completely stop the cold, but to reduce the constant pressure of the northern wind. During winter, people enter and leave as little as possible. Every time the door opens, a small amount of warmth escapes. Near the entrance, several farming tools are stored neatly against the wall. A simple wooden sled rests nearby. Coiled ropes occupy a corner close to the doorway. Nothing appears to have been left to chance. Organization helps make the long winter months predictable. Every object has a place. Every task follows a familiar rhythm. As you watch the entrance, the wind rises once more. The wood creaks softly. It is not a troubling sound. It is simply the sound of a building working together with nature. This longhouse has endured many storms like this throughout the years. And tonight will be just another peaceful evening carried gently through the slow passage of winter. The heart of the longhouse is the central fire. It rests within a long line of stones placed carefully along the middle of the packed earth floor. Throughout winter, the fire remains burning almost continuously. Keeping the embers alive is an ongoing task. It does not require constant effort, only patient attention. Small logs are added gradually during the night, not to create large flames, only to preserve a steady warmth. The glowing embers cast a gentle light across the room. Shadows drift slowly along the walls and ceiling. Nothing moves quickly. Everything follows a calm rhythm. The air nearest the fire feels comfortable and warm. Farther away, closer to the outer walls, cooler air quietly lingers. The Vikings understood this natural distribution of heat very well. For that reason, many sleeping places were arranged near the center of the building. As you watch the embers glowing softly, it becomes easy to imagine how a single fire could support dozens of people through the coldest months of the year. The occasional crackle of wood becomes almost hypnotic. A simple sound, repetitive, steady, perfect for accompanying a long winter night. Along the walls stand raised wooden platforms used for sleeping. During the day, they function as benches. At night, they become beds. Each sleeping space is layered with thick animal furs, wool blankets, tanned leather, additional coverings designed to improve insulation against the cold. By modern standards, none of these materials would seem luxurious, but during a Scandinavian winter, they provide genuine comfort. People settle close to one another. Shared body heat helps conserve energy throughout the coldest nights. The blankets are heavy. Some have been used for many years. Small repairs can be seen throughout the fabric. Nothing is wasted. The effort required to produce each item makes every object valuable. As you settle onto one of these platforms, you feel the firmness of the wood beneath the layers of fur. The fire continues to warm the room. The wind continues to blow outside. But in here, there is only quiet. An ancient quiet, a familiar quiet, and a deeply relaxing one. Above you is a simple opening in the roof. It allows smoke to escape slowly into the night air. On calm evenings, the smoke rises almost straight upward. But during this blizzard, shifting winds create gentle and unpredictable movements. From time to time, a few snowflakes drift through the opening. They float slowly through the warm air inside the longhouse. Some disappear before they ever reach the ground. Others land softly on the stones near the fire and melt without a sound. The opening also provides occasional glimpses of the night sky. When the clouds part briefly, small fragments of moonlight become visible overhead. It is only a faint glow, yet it is enough to mingle with the golden light produced by the embers below. The result is a peaceful blend of silver light and amber light. As you watch the ceiling above, time seems to slow down. The fire continues burning. The wind continues blowing. The snow continues falling. And the long Scandinavian winter continues its silent journey, hour after hour, night after night. Your attention now drifts slowly toward one end of the longhouse, an area dedicated to food storage. During a Scandinavian winter, managing supplies was an important responsibility. There were no stores operating during a snowstorm, no deliveries, no quick ways to replace something once it was gone. Because of that, months of preparation had already taken place before the first snowfall arrived. Along the wall stand large wooden barrels sealed carefully. Some contain dried grains. Others hold preserved butter. There are also containers storing fermented beverages prepared during the warmer seasons. Above the barrels, horizontal beams support rows of dried fish. Cod preserved during the summer has become a common winter food. The drying process allows it to remain usable for long periods of time. Nearby hang small cloth bags filled with dried herbs. Some are used for cooking. Others are prepared for simple and comforting infusions. Nothing here appears excessive. Everything serves a purpose. Everything has been planned to last. As you observe this quiet corner, it becomes clear that surviving winter depended less on strength and much more on patient preparation. Every barrel represents work completed months earlier. Every sack represents a harvest brought in successfully. Every stored food represents time. Time transformed into security. And tonight, while snow continues gathering outside, these supplies remain quietly in place, waiting for the long days still ahead. Now you lift your gaze toward the structure of the building itself. Massive timber posts support the full weight of the roof. Some measure nearly 16 inches across. Others are even larger. These beams were cut many years before this evening. Entire trees had to be felled, transported, and shaped by hand so this longhouse could exist. The surface of the wood still reveals small marks left behind by the tools used during construction. None of them have been removed. They remain there, preserved through time. Firelight travels slowly across the grain of the timber. Long shadows appear and disappear as the flames shift gently. The ceiling rises several feet above you. Rows of beams create repeating patterns that guide the eye from one end of the building to the other. There is something deeply calming about that repetition. Beam after beam, line after line, support after support. The building feels solid, reliable, unchanging. Outside, the storm continues, changing every moment. Winds rise, snow gathers, clouds drift overhead. But inside, the structure remains steady. The same structure that sheltered countless winter nights before this one. The same structure that shelters this night, and perhaps many more still to come. Around the fire, the evening routine moves forward slowly. The day's work has already ended. Tools have been stored away. Food supplies have been organized. Animals have been protected from the cold. Now only the quietest part of the day remains. Several people sit near the fire. They are not occupied with important tasks. They simply watch the flames. Perhaps they speak softly. Perhaps they remain silent. Both seem equally natural. Winter creates long periods spent indoors. And during those periods, time moves differently. There is no urgency, no rush, no need to fill every minute with activity. The fire provides warmth. The shelter provides security. And that is enough. You notice the wool garments worn by the residents. The thick fibers help retain body heat. Some pieces show small repairs completed over many years. Nothing is discarded without reason. Life follows an economical rhythm. Practical, steady. As the embers glow quietly, a feeling of drowsiness seems to spread throughout the room. The night is still long, but the entire longhouse is already settling gently into rest. For a moment, imagine yourself looking out across the landscape beyond the walls. Darkness covers nearly everything. The sky remains hidden behind dense layers of snow-filled clouds. Wind moves across the white surface of the land, creating temporary patterns in the drifting snow. No roads are visible. No trails remain intact. Snow covers everything with remarkable uniformity. Trees appear as dark silhouettes in the distance. Their outlines emerge and disappear as blowing snow crosses your view. The temperature continues falling gradually. Yet inside the longhouse, the difference is extraordinary. The walls create a boundary between two worlds. One is cold, exposed, driven by the storm. The other is warm, protected, lit by the steady glow of the fire. The physical distance between these two environments is small, only a few inches of wood, and yet the feeling is completely different. While the blizzard continues its silent work across the landscape, you remain comfortable, protected from the wind, protected from the darkness, protected by generations of knowledge passed down through builders who learned exactly how to create shelter in one of the harshest environments on Earth. The night moves forward, without clocks, without visible calendars, without any need to track the passing hours. Time is measured through simple signs. The embers grow smaller. the room becomes quieter. Movement becomes increasingly rare. Several people are already asleep. Others remain awake beside the fire. Yet even they appear more relaxed with each passing moment. The wind continues blowing across the roof. Now, however, it feels distant, almost part of the natural soundtrack of the night itself. The furs covering your sleeping place retain the warmth gathered over the past several hours. The temperature remains comfortable. The orange glow of the embers creates small islands of light throughout the longhouse. None of them are bright. None demand attention. Everything seems softened by the darkness. As you watch the final movements of the flames, it becomes easy to imagine that the people who once lived here experienced nights very much like this one. The same snow, the same wind, the same fire, the same feeling of shelter. And little by little, as the storm continues beyond the walls, the Viking Longhouse settles into an even deeper silence. An ancient silence. Slow, steady, perfectly suited for sleep. At this point in the night, most of the longhouse has become completely quiet. The busiest part of the day ended many hours ago. The work, the meals, and the small daily tasks now belong to the past. Only calm remains. The embers continue releasing a steady warmth. Although the flames are smaller than before, they still provide a gentle glow throughout the building. The shadows cast by the beams seem to move at an incredibly slow pace, almost imperceptibly. The dark ceiling remains above you like a vast protective structure. The wood absorbs much of the light and creates a welcoming atmosphere where nothing demands too much attention. Across many parts of medieval Scandinavia, winter brought nights long enough that people spent much of their time indoors. For weeks, and sometimes months, daily life adjusted itself to the limitations of the season. The pace slowed. Workdays became shorter. Activities gathered closer to the fire. As you observe the room around you, it becomes clear how this gradual adaptation to winter shaped not only routines, but also the perception of time itself. Everything feels slower, softer, more spacious. Outside, the storm continues. But inside, the longhouse remains wrapped in a feeling of stability that seems to stretch across entire generations. Now your attention settles on the fabrics and furs used throughout the night. In the soft glow of the embers, different textures can be seen carefully arranged across the sleeping platforms. The wool blankets appear thick and dense. Every fiber was produced by hand. First, the wool was gathered from animals. Then it was cleaned, prepared, spun, woven. The entire process required countless hours of patient work. Over a lifetime, a person could spend thousands of hours producing clothing, blankets, and other textiles. Nothing was quick. Nothing was disposable. Every object carried a significant amount of human effort. The furs layered over the blankets provide even greater insulation. Some are soft. Others have longer coats. Each material contributes differently to retaining warmth. As you settle deeper beneath these layers, you begin to appreciate how effectively they create a barrier against winter's cold. A simple barrier, a natural barrier, and an incredibly effective one. The distant sound of the wind remains present, but it feels farther away now, as though it belongs to another world entirely. A world separated by wood, fire, wool, and time. Near one wall stands a collection of wooden chests. At this hour of the night, they remain closed, silent, motionless. Yet each one contains objects important to everyday life. Additional clothing, tools, small household items, possessions created over many years. The chests display no extravagant decorations. Their beauty lies in their usefulness, their durability, their ability to protect valuable belongings. Their hinges produce soft sounds when opened. The wood shows marks left behind by years of regular use. Nothing appears new, yet everything appears dependable. Around the chests rest other equally simple objects. Carved wooden spoons, storage containers, small tools used for household work. Every item carries a quiet history, a sequence of ordinary days, without extraordinary events, without dramatic changes, only the slow accumulation of repeated routines over time. As you watch these objects resting in the dim light, it becomes clear that much of human life has always been built in exactly this way, not through grand events, but through the peaceful repetition of small daily tasks, day after day, season after season, winter after winter. Now imagine the small community surrounding the Longhouse. Although darkness hides much of the landscape, you know that other structures rest beneath the same storm. Small homes, barns, shelters built for animals, buildings constructed using methods similar to those used here. All of them share the same purpose: to protect, to warm, to preserve. Snow continues gathering slowly across the rooftops, layer upon layer, inch by inch. The additional weight presents no immediate concern. The builders understand winter very well. These structures were designed with such conditions in mind. Somewhere beyond the darkness stand fences partially buried beneath snow, stacks of firewood waiting for future use. Small paths now hidden beneath winter's white blanket. The entire village seems to be resting, as though patiently waiting for the arrival of spring. But there is no hurry. Winter follows its own rhythm, its own duration, its own silence. And tonight, the entire settlement seems perfectly synchronized with that ancient and steady rhythm. The night reaches one of its quietest hours. The embers now glow with reduced intensity. Small red points remain scattered among the stones of the central fire. The warmth is still present, but it has become softer, more delicate, more suited to deep rest. The entire longhouse seems asleep. Sounds have become rare. Perhaps the gentle crack of heated wood. Perhaps a distant gust touching the roof. Perhaps the silent shifting of an ember. Nothing more than that. Darkness now occupies much of the room. But it is not an uncomfortable darkness. It feels welcoming, protective, like an invisible blanket wrapped around the entire building. You remain lying quietly, watching the last traces of light upon the upper beams. The shapes become less defined. The shadows grow deeper. Details slowly disappear. And along with them fades any feeling of urgency. There is no task waiting to be completed. No destination waiting to be reached. There is only this night, this shelter, this distant storm, and the slow passing of the hours. As winter continues its journey across a sleeping Scandinavia, the Viking Longhouse remains steady, warm, and peaceful. A small refuge of light surrounded by a vast ocean of snow and silence. The hours continue moving forward slowly. At some point during the night, it becomes difficult to tell exactly how much time has passed. The Longhouse has settled into such a deep state of quiet that even the perception of minutes seems to fade away. The embers remain alive, Small, subtle, yet persistent. Their reddish glow illuminates only a small area around the fire. The rest of the room rests within soft shadows. The upper beams nearly disappear into darkness. The outlines of the sleeping platforms become vague. The architecture itself seems to dissolve gradually into the dim light. And yet, a constant feeling of security remains. Nothing feels threatening. Nothing feels unfamiliar. The Longhouse simply continues fulfilling its purpose, protecting its occupants, preserving warmth, resisting winter. Outside, tons of snow cover the landscape. The wind continues carrying frozen particles across fields and hills. But those activities belong to another environment, another rhythm, another world. Inside, everything remains still. The fire breathes slowly. The wood rests. The winter waits. And you remain surrounded by a calm so deep that time itself seems to slow down. Above you, several tons of material form the roof of the Longhouse. Layers of timber, supporting structures, vegetation, turf, grass, and now, a thick additional layer of snow gathered by the storm. Viking builders possessed a deep understanding of the materials available in their environment. Every element served a specific purpose. The turf helped preserve warmth. The vegetation created additional insulation. The beams distributed weight efficiently. During winter, the snow itself could even contribute to thermal insulation. The white layer covering the roof acts as an additional barrier against the cold outside. While the wind moves across that frozen surface, the interior remains surprisingly comfortable. It is a simple solution, based upon careful observation of nature. Without machines, without modern technology, only knowledge accumulated across many generations. As you imagine the roof above enduring the storm, a quiet sense of reassurance emerges. The Longhouse does not fight against winter. It was simply built to coexist with it. And throughout this long night, that silent partnership continues working exactly as intended. Near one wall stand containers used daily by the residents. Buckets, smaller barrels, carefully crafted wooden vessels. Simple objects, yet essential ones. Water stored during winter had to be managed thoughtfully. Collecting water during a storm was not always pleasant. For that reason, adequate reserves were kept close to living areas. The surfaces of these containers reveal signs of long use. Small wear marks, traces left by countless hands, changes created through the passing years. No object remains exactly the same after decades of service, and that too becomes part of its beauty. Function leaves traces, routine leaves memories, repetition leaves marks. As you observe these vessels resting quietly in the dim light, it becomes easy to imagine how many times they were used, how many winters they witnessed, how many meals they helped prepare, how many nights like this they endured. Now they remain still, resting alongside the rest of the Longhouse, waiting patiently for the next day. At some point during the night, the clouds begin moving slowly across the landscape. The storm still exists, but its intensity seems to be fading. Above the Longhouse, small openings appear between layers of cloud. Through them, moonlight quietly returns. A soft glow descends through the roof opening. It mingles with the reddish light of the embers. It creates delicate reflections across the timber surfaces. The contrast between these two light sources is subtle. One is cool, silver, distant, The other is warm, orange, nearby. Together they create an almost hypnotic atmosphere. Neither one dominates the room. Both coexist in balance. The result is an exceptionally peaceful illumination, perfect for the quietest hours before dawn. As you watch this mixture of light, it becomes clear that winter contains moments of remarkable gentleness. Not everything is strong wind. Not everything is a storm. There are also periods of calm, small pauses, moments when nature itself seems to breathe more slowly. And tonight, little by little, it is moving toward exactly that state. The night slowly approaches its final stretch. There is still plenty of time before sunrise, yet subtle changes have already begun. Complete darkness no longer fully dominates the room. Far above, beyond the clouds and snow, the world continues turning toward a new morning. Inside the Longhouse, however, almost nothing has changed. People continue resting. The blankets continue preserving warmth. The beams continue supporting the roof. The embers continue glowing. There is something deeply comforting about that continuity. In a world where so many things constantly change, medieval winters were often made up of long periods of repetition. The same fire, the same routine, the same objects, the same sounds, day after day, week after week. That repetition was not viewed as something negative. Quite the opposite. It created predictability, security, stability. As you lie quietly listening to the gentle sounds of the Longhouse, you realize that this sense of continuity can still provide comfort even centuries later. The wind has weakened. The snow falls more slowly. The night remains peaceful. And the ancient Viking Longhouse continues holding its warmth amid the vast Scandinavian winter. Very slowly, almost imperceptibly, the night begins moving toward dawn. The transition does not happen all at once. No sharp line appears on the horizon. No sudden brightness fills the room. Instead, everything unfolds in extremely gradual stages. Outside, clouds still cover much of the sky, but the deepest darkness begins to lose its intensity. The snow across the landscape starts reflecting small amounts of light. The white surface becomes slightly more visible. The outlines of distant hills begin to return. Trees slowly separate themselves from the darkness around them. Inside the Longhouse, the changes remain subtle. The fire continues providing the primary source of light, yet a cool and gentle glow begins mixing with the shadows. It is the first sign that the long night is approaching its end. For centuries, people awoke to witness this exact process, without alarm clocks, without watches, simply following the natural changes of light. And while winter continues covering the land beyond the walls, a new morning slowly begins its journey across Scandinavia. The small settlement surrounding the Longhouse remains quiet. Most people are still resting. No significant activity has begun. No paths have been reopened through the snow. No tools have returned to work. Winter seems to temporarily suspend the movement of the world. Across the rooftops rests a uniform layer of snow accumulated throughout the night. The white surfaces reflect the growing light of dawn. Small details begin to emerge. Fence lines, storage buildings, nearby trees. Everything slowly returns to view. The storm that dominated the landscape hours earlier now feels more distant, less intense, more peaceful. From some buildings, thin streams of smoke begin rising into the morning air. They are subtle signs that warmth is being renewed for another winter day. Nothing happens quickly. Nothing happens with urgency. The village awakens at the same slow pace that defines the season itself. As you observe this gradual transformation, it becomes easy to understand why so many people developed a deep connection to natural cycles. Every sunrise was noticed. Every season was felt. Every change unfolded in its own time. Inside the Longhouse, the arrival of morning becomes increasingly noticeable. The bluish light of dawn begins revealing details that remained hidden throughout the night. The textures of the wood become clearer. The blankets reveal their woven patterns. The beams regain their outlines. Little by little, the room emerges from the shadows. The embers still remain alive. Though smaller now, they continue providing enough warmth to keep the interior comfortable. The fire has worked quietly throughout the entire night, hour after hour, without interruption, without hurry. Natural light gradually begins taking over part of its role. It is a gentle transition, almost imperceptible, like so many of the changes witnessed during this long night. As you look around the Longhouse, you notice something interesting. Nothing appears extraordinary. Nothing appears grand. And that is precisely why the room feels so peaceful. Everything was built to serve simple purposes. To shelter, to warm, to protect. And it continues performing those tasks exactly as it did generations ago. Now morning is drawing near. The night that began beneath a powerful blizzard is approaching its conclusion. Throughout these hours, the Longhouse has remained steady. The walls endured the wind. The roof carried the snow. The fire preserved warmth. Every element performed exactly as intended. There is something deeply comforting in that simplicity. We often imagine the past as a sequence of major events. Yet most of human life has always been made up of moments like this. Ordinary nights, ordinary days, ordinary routines. People resting safely while winter continues beyond the walls. The peace did not come from an absence of challenges. It came from preparation, knowledge, experience accumulated across generations. As you watch the morning light gradually increase, you realize that this Longhouse represents far more than wood and turf. It represents adaptation, patience, continuity, and humanity's ability to create comfort even in some of the coldest environments on Earth. And now, morning has finally arrived. The storm of the night has passed. Snow still blankets the fields, hills, and rooftops, but the world feels quieter, brighter, more peaceful. A new layer of light settles across the Scandinavian landscape. The first rays of sunlight pass through the remaining clouds and reflect across the snow. The glow is soft, gentle, almost silent. Inside the Longhouse, the warmth gathered throughout the night still remains. The embers continue glowing. The wooden structures remain steady. The blankets remain warm. Everything feels exactly where it belongs. Throughout this night, you have traveled through hours of wind, snow, fire, and silence. You have observed the simple routine of a shelter built to coexist with winter. You have witnessed the slow pace of natural cycles, the stability of routines, the comfort of things that change very little. And as this new morning slowly spreads across the landscape, you may allow your mind to do the same, growing calmer, quieter, lighter, like snow resting upon the fields, like embers settling after a long night, like the ancient Viking Longhouse standing peacefully beneath the soft light of dawn. And so, surrounded by warmth, snow, and the slow rhythm of the Scandinavian winter, your journey comes gently to an end. Good night, and sleep deeply.